I got this word where it says that in order for God to bless us, He needs our participation. He needs yours and my participation in different forms and different ways. I want to read to you Deuteronomy chapter 31. It says this, but the Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. This is what Moses was telling the children of Israel that the Lord would do. He says, but the Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy the nations living there, and you will take possession of their land. Joshua will lead you across the river just as the Lord promised. The Lord will destroy the nations living in the land, just as he destroyed Shion and Og. And then I want to go into Joshua chapter 6. And I want to bring two things up to you. Now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. No one was allowed to go out or in. But the Lord said to Joshua, I have given you Jericho, its kings and all the strong warriors. How many of you know, before I read further, how many of you know that many times God has spoken, and yet sometimes it can be a scary thing to step across the line? In Deuteronomy chapter 31, God had already spoken to Moses. Now God is speaking to Joshua. Guess what? I've done it all. But guess another what? It requires yours and mine participation. They had to still go in. God said, I have given you the victory. I have conquered the enemies. I have plundered the land. He's done everything. I'm going to give victory into your hand because I've done it all. But guess what? You're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to put one foot in front of the other and know that I've gone before you and made the crooked path straight, so to speak, right? So, and he says, you are to march around Jericho 6 times, and on the 7th day, you are to walk around it 7 times, and when the priests blow their horns, you are to give this shout like none other, and you're going to watch the walls come down. But when Joshua went and spoke to his people after giving all those instructions as Lord had commanded, it says here, Joshua said, you're not to open up your mouth. You're not to say a word while we're going around Jericho. Why do you think he said that? Why did Joshua say to the people, you are not to utter a word? There's nowhere, when you read up, nowhere does it mention why it was done. But I personally believe when I was spending time with God, what happens is when doubt enters our heart or our mind kind of thing, we tend to vocalize it. So, they could have easily have been going around Jericho here. God told us to take it on, but what on earth are we doing? Why are we taking on this building? Why are we going around Jericho? Instead, they were to keep their mouth shut because we're human beings. We are sure to complain. We're sure to doubt. And it wasn't allowed to come out of our mouth. Our confession is so powerful. So I want to say this morning to you, sons and daughters, families, brothers and sisters, as we take on what God has called us to take on, I want to say to you all, let's not, talk to our spouses negatively or to our friendship groups negatively. Doesn't matter what the enemy is lying to you in between your ears. We are to speak faith. And we are to speak life in order to take what God has called us to take. We can stand up here, we can give, but giving is nothing if our confession is contrary to what is being given. If we give and we complain with our mouth and saying, what on earth are we doing? We still have 1.5 to race. Guess what? What you've given becomes null and void. I'm telling you this morning, God has given us power over what we speak. You are to speak life over your family, over your circumstances, about the inheritance we're about to take. It's not honestly, you are going to face doubts and things like that in our heads. Any given moment there are doubts flying through our heads, but it doesn't mean to say it has to be spoken through our lips. Your words have power. Your words have power. So this morning, I feel like, just as Joshua instructed, there were so many instructions given from Vanessa to Jade to Leon to many others. My input, what God was saying, instruct my people not to open their mouths in fear, in doubt, or in any other thing other than just giving him praise for what he has done and what he's yet to do. Can we make a commitment as a church to speak life over our life and the finances and over this church and what we're about to take over? Amen.